Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your spring. I know that this is going to not actually air for a few weeks, but as I sit here in April, I am looking at a rogue snowstorm. And it's just so unexpected. It's causing me, Amelia, as well. Every time we look out the window, like, okay, wait, is it April? What happened? Did we dream that all the flowers have already started popping up and there are blooms on the trees? It's surprising to look outside and be faced with unexpected scenery and an unexpected view, even though it's very beautiful. And it just is making us be really aware that some things are not as they seem, and some things are unexpected. And as we know, as we are traveling this journey of life, that we know that there are so many gifts in that. And I hope that you are finding that to be true in your day-to-day as well. I am really excited to introduce today's guest to you. She is very fun. She is full of energy, full of great ideas, full of fire. I could have talked to her for a very long time. So thankfully for you, she had an appointment. So we had to end our call. And I'm just really thrilled for you to get to hear from Anna Morris and just open your heart to possibility. So regardless of what you're looking out outside, and if that is something that you expected or something that is making you quickly calculate, what month is this? What's happening? That you are open to possibility, that you are open to listening to yourself, to trusting yourself, to holding space for yourself, and to getting to the real questions, the real intentions, the real desires of your heart, and then taking inspired action to get one step closer to where you desire to be. Our guest today is Anna Morris. She is a clarity and confidence coach, deeply invested in people living a life they love. As a recovering people pleaser who didn't know what actually made her happy, Anna started discovering her truest self and loves helping other women do the same. It gets to be easy. She teaches journaling, mindset shifting, and self-care as a way to access your inner voice. I will not keep you from her goodness any longer, so sit back and relax, pour yourself your favorite beverage, and enjoy this conversation with my friend Anna Morris. Anna, I am so excited to have this conversation with you. You are just such a fabulous fireball of energy, and I feel like we may launch 5 new businesses by the end of this conversation,
You do that?
we can do whatever we want because
Oh,
that's
that would
what
be
we
so
do.
fun.
Oh
That's
my
like my
gosh.
favorite thing that we just said that.
Because, we're often around people that say, all right, settle down there. Like, let's bring it in. And I'm
Oh,
like, oh, thanks for saying that. Now I know I don't ever have to hang out with you again. Because my
you know,
people,
I'm like, I don't think people say that to me anymore because they don't want to hang out with me anymore. And then in the best of ways, right? In the
right,
best of ways, because it is so much fun to like, I literally wrote this morning in my journal, I love saying yes.
right?
And I forgot that's the name of your podcast, isn't it?
Yes, it is,
Oh, I
ma'am.
forgot that.
It's my favorite word.
My favorite word.
And it's my favorite word because when I say it, I mean it. Like, I let my yes be
Oh
yes
yeah.
and my no be no.
Yeah.
And
100%.
I consider myself a person with excellent boundaries. And if I want to
Mm-hmm.
do something,
Yeah.
I know that that's because it's for me. And
Yeah.
if I do not want to do something,
Mm-hmm.
I trust myself to be able to graciously decline the invitation to NASCAR or whatever the thing is that I
Oh,
don't want to do.
yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
No.
And what I'm finding in exercising that total self-care practice, it allows me to be really present for the things that I'm doing. And I am only available for what delights me. So the things that I'm doing are fabulous and wonderful. And it reminds me that I can trust myself, I can trust my decisions. I'm modeling this behavior to my beautiful unicorn of a 10-year-old. And I'm also not in situations or in NASCAR arenas that I don't want to be in. So I'm not bringing any of those people down that are
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
happy to be where they are. So it's such a beautiful, it's such a beautiful practice to let your yes be yes. And I'm glad that that's your favorite word too.
It's literally, I'm surprised that when I wrote it, I was like, that's so funny. I've never written that before. And it is really my favorite. And then it was like 5 a.m. So I wasn't thinking about this podcast, right? And I certainly wasn't thinking because I've got the acronym in my calendar, not the name.
Correct.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the name of your podcast. Like, and that's such a great reminder of something that I'm always coaching. And I know I just know that this is what you're saying too, is that there aren't accidents.
Right.
It's none of it's like you were just talking to me before you hit record about a golden retriever. And then somebody yesterday said something about a golden retriever. And the day before that, my husband was like, our next dogs are golden retrievers. And now it's like,
Right.
they just, everywhere. No
Yes.
offense. Like then my dogs are sleeping right now. Like we're not getting, you guys are good. Stick
Right.
around. Um, but like in our future, there will be like, golden retrievers. And I think that there are two different things I want to say about yes. I've had people like question me, like, "Oh, are you sure?"
Mhm.
And I'll just flatline it and say, like, "Listen, I I am always sure, and if
Mm,
I'm not, you won't get a response from me. I just won't be saying yes. I won't. I my dad taught me, when you don't know, do nothing,
mm,
even though I don't know. And I will assert that like we do actually know, but we're maybe not ready. We have some layers to take off to be comfortable with that answer, right?
right.
By comfortable, like you're probably still going to be uncomfortable, but at least like less paralyzed,
Exactly.
right? Um, and then there was something else that I wanted to say about that, about the yes. It, I think, occurs to people when they're around people like us that it's what's the word I'm looking for? Impetuous, but it's like need, what is the word that I'm looking for? Can
Like
you
a
say it?
knee jerk,
Yeah.
like we're just not thinking
Yeah,
absentmindedly. Yes, yes,
exactly.
yes, yes. We just want more. We want all the good things. Give it to me. No, it's very
Irresponsible.
intentional. It's very intentional.
Mhm. Or that like what the magic that happens in my life is somehow like luck
Hmm. Yep.
versus like something I've been deeply cultivating
That's
in
right.
the dark hours of the morning with meditation and journaling and like being intentional with my language and my choices.
Mhm.
And that all of these things over all of my life have added up to make it look easy.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
and like, and it is when you get honest with yourself.
Exactly. And when there is a sense of efforting, when there's a sense where you feel like you're making it happen or you're pushing, that's an indicator that you need to reevaluate. Let's slow down.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be, Abraham Hicks talks about, sometimes we want to get in the canoe and we just start rowing, rowing, rowing
Mm,
upstream, and we're going to make this happen. And that's
yeah.
not what we're supposed to do. We actually don't even need the oars. We're just going to let it go. And the canoe is
Yeah.
going to turn around and it's going to go with the current, which
Yeah.
is going with the flow. That's a phrase because that's an invitation to allow it to be easy. And it
Mm.
takes a lot of work to allow it to be easy, a lot
Yeah.
of internal work,
Well,
a lot of
and I want to say,
mindset.
I want to tweak that just a little bit if I could.
Of course.
A lot of work. It takes some retraining,
Yes.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and that can feel really foreign. And it also really takes like not listening to other people.
Yep.
And in a world of information constantly, that's nice in some ways and very detrimental in other ways, right? I'm always looking at like, is that going to add value? Is that adding value? Like if I go to like when I teach an 8 week coaching program called the Reconnect. And spoiler alert, the third week, so the first week is journaling, the second week is decluttering, right? Because like physically
Mm-hmm.
making it, but the third week, the one that people don't know, I maybe shouldn't tell people, but whatever. I take them off social media.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, like you don't actually need to watch all the things that there are about doing a podcast. Don't you know how to talk to people? You know how to talk to people. You
Right.
know how to have a good time, right?
Right.
That's it. It's the energy that we're bringing.
Yeah.
And then it's trusting ourselves in that place of quiet to have us be guided. I'll
Yeah.
never forget when I started coaching. I come from a corporate background. I was in pharmaceutical sales. I mentioned that I worked for a company out of Mansfield. I was in New York for 12 years. I worked in pharmaceutical sales. And I remember when I was leaving my job, I was working with an energy healer and shaman. And she gave me this great piece of advice. And she said, don't talk to anybody about this. Don't tell anybody. You're not strong enough. You'll look
Mm.
back. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell coworkers. Like I just ghosted the whole world. Like I've only recently in the last 10, like in 10 years later, like gotten back involved on like LinkedIn and like that. And then it's funny because like my former colleagues are reaching out to me to coach them now. Right.
Interesting. Yes.
And so when I started coaching, I felt like I needed to prepare, right? Like I would get a notebook and like, let me like make the, and then I realized what that did was it got me up here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not where the yes is.
Right.
That's where circumstances are.
Sure.
That's where right or wrong judgment. And that's all from a place of fear. It's all from a place of lack. It's all from a place of scarcity. And that's not what I'm here for. And that's not what you're here for. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, I promise you it's not what you're here for.
Right.
We're here for the love, the infinite, the flow. And so I started meditating before I would hop on a call.
Mm-hmm.
And just recently, I led like a women's networking event on Zoom. And what I did was I took the dogs for a walk, and a friend just passed away, and I found myself on his doorstep. He lives around the corner, and I found myself like just crying for a really long time on the doorstep. And then I came home and I
Mm.
laughed, and then I led the networking event, and I didn't do anything that you would think I would do to prepare for like a real estate networking thing. because all they really needed was me to be present.
That's exactly right.
And people mostly aren't.
Right. And you have been preparing. You've
Yeah.
mentioned your morning routine. You've
Yeah.
mentioned these life experiences. And often when I'm inviting someone to be a guest on the podcast, like, oh, can you send me the list of questions? And I want to be prepared. Is there anything I should read? It's like,
No.
Queen, you've been preparing for 45 years.
Late last night, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten Wendy anything. I should send her something. And then I was like, but I know she doesn't need anything. So
No,
I'll just get her like the links and some pictures.
that's
And
all I need.
I know. And I love that because I had a radio show before podcasting was a thing like 10 years ago. I never prepared for it. I was like, just show up and let's have fun. Let's see what
Yeah.
happens.
Right. And we're not irresponsible, and I'm not just reading my grocery list. It's like I prepared, but I prepared at 4:45 this morning when I was meditating and
Yes.
journaling.
Yes.
And that practice, it's relatively new to me. I'm
The meditation or the journaling or the combo.
the whole setting aside time on a consistent basis.
Oh,
I'm about 3 years in. It
okay.
has absolutely changed my life.
Yes.
I get up at 4:45
Yeah.
and I have until about 7 when I wake Amelia up for school. And it's just such a beautiful practice. I'm not available to miss it. I'm not available
Mm-hmm.
to sleep in. I'm not available to attempt to navigate a day without that
Yes.
filling up. I've said it many times on the podcast, and I can't remember the first person that I heard say it, but the idea was to, obviously fill our cup, but we give from our saucer, not from our cup. So we fill our cup till it's overflowing
Uh-huh.
and it spills over on our saucer, and that's what we give from. And when the saucer is empty, is
Mm-hmm.
when we fill again. We don't wait for the
Mm-hmm.
cup to be empty
Yeah.
before we do something for ourselves.
Yes.
So
Love
every
that.
day I am setting this time aside, and it's a beautiful communion
Yeah.
for me. And I have my best ideas
Yeah.
during that time. And then I wake Amelia up. She gets the very best version of me
Yeah.
because I'm just like, my cup is full, my saucer's full, I'm
Yeah.
all good. And it's been so beautiful. And I thought there is no chance that I can incorporate a morning routine into my life. And the very next day, I had an opportunity to try it and thought, ooh, this is crazy, just like the golden retrievers. I was just talking about it and I woke up at 4:45 with no alarm, and I
Yes.
was able to get
Yes.
out of. Then I had a family bed with my husband and daughter, and I got out of bed without waking them up and went downstairs and made coffee without waking up a dog, who
Yeah.
then, of course, would wake up the people, and then there would be no morning. And then I went to the library of our house and started journaling and read a book and meditated and prayed. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And that was the first day of it. And I have not stopped since, unless I know that I'm on an overnight flight, or I've had a dinner party and I'm doing dishes until 2 in the morning. I tell myself the night before that I'm not going to get up at 4:45, but I
Yeah.
don't ever make that decision in the morning. I
Yeah.
get up to be the person that has this morning routine.
Yeah. I started doing that 16 years ago.
Amazing.
And I love when people are like, I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, like I've had a version, right? Like I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm like, you want to talk about no time? And the only time in my life in those 16 years that I wasn't diligent, like I wasn't daily about it, was we took 3 years and traveled around the world. And
Oh, fun.
the middle year, yeah, I was like, oh, this will be so fun. And there's a whole France component, which I know is like your jam.
Yes.
Um, the middle year was a proper like around the world in a carry-on suitcase We did 30 countries in 10 months. 3
Oh my word.
We started in South Africa and we kind of worked our way up to Finland, over to Japan, and then down through Asia, and then ended in New Zealand. I think we ended in New Zealand. Yeah, we flew back from Auckland. I am the person, I'm the daughter of a Delta pilot. So, like,
Okay.
I'm the person, I mean, I grew up traveling. So, I grew up like my dad just wanted to sit at a coffee shop and make friends with people and then get invited over to their house for dinner. And that's
That
100%
is
me.
awesome.
Like, I do not care about the sights. But I
Hmm.
didn't really know that. And I didn't really know any other way of traveling until I married my husband, who's like, was trained as an accountant, covering up that he wanted to be an architect, which he is now the builder, which is great. Speaking of businesses, coached him right into that business.
Good job.
um, so he's somebody that likes to see all the sites and has a box to check on all the things. And did we do all the things that there are to see? Which was a problem for the way I travel.
Hmm.
So he had me up on tours at like 5 in the morning. And like as diligent as I am, like I'm not getting up much before 4:45, 4:30, right? Like once we get into the fours and the threes, I'm like,
Right.
I'm just staying up all night at that point,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
yeah. And I didn't journal most of that year. And when I look
Mm.
back at that experience, it can feel nice to like people are like, wow, that's so amazing. And it feels oftentimes like a bit phony to me
Mm.
because I know that it didn't actually feel good.
Mm. Say more, please.
You know, I remember a time on the trip, and if you've been here, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like, I literally chose a place where there was nothing to see and nothing to do, and it was Aix-en-Provence.
Mm.
When I was researching, we had been, I think, in Morocco. And I was like, and Spain and stuff like that. And I was like, I just need to go somewhere where there's nothing that he's going to make me go do. And it
Right.
said like, this is the town where you go to the cafes and the markets, the outdoor markets, and you watch people and you sit and drink coffee. I was like,
Done.
that's all that I want. Right. And we were there for 9 days and we
Mm.
got him this like ridiculous Mercedes convertible. And he just like, and I don't like fast cars and things like that. So like I stayed at the cafes. He drove that fast car. He went and saw these viaducts and like all these things that I cared nothing about.
That's awesome.
It's so good.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. How did you decide that you were going to do that? Were you, how did that conversation start?
So that comes back to what we were talking about with the morning practice, right? With a morning, and I haven't always been somebody that meditates. I'm trained as a yoga and meditation teacher. Like I said, I was a pharmaceutical sales rep who hated yoga and journaling.
Okay.
Jokes on me. Right? Jokes on me. Um, and live in a small town after living on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, right? So like,
Yes.
oh, and
In
I married
Texas.
in Texas, and I married a guy that I've known my whole life. Like we have baby pictures
Oh,
together. Like it's
oh, I love
hilarious
that. That's
how much
beautiful.
I resisted what actually feels amazing.
Hmm.
And a lot of that goes back to like, can it be that easy? Like, can
Right.
I actually like have it be that easy? He also asked me out for 10 years before I noticed that he was asking me out. I went on a date with my future husband, who I'm right now, um, and brought my boyfriend. Like that's how much I didn't know. Yeah, like real real slow on the uptake, right? He was in New York visiting, and he was like, you want to grab a drink? I was like, yeah, sure. And I brought my boyfriend.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So to answer your question, um, I led most of my life up until about 30 for other people. And I love my family. And the conversation was never what makes you happy, Anna. Right. And I think
Mhm,
most of us grew up like that.
mhm.
Right. I'm also like the daughter of, my parents aren't immigrants, but like we have an immigrant background from like Greece and Finland. And it was like, what are you good at? What do you excel at? What can you make money at? Let's
Mhm.
go.
Right.
Right. So, and then I lived in New York where like, cost of living is high. So I went into sales and I like people and I'm good with people. So there we go. And I woke up at 28, 29, which is pivotal for women, right? It's every
Hmm.
7 years, you know this. And I woke up with everything that would make me happy. And I was really, really unhappy. And I would come home and cry after work before my boyfriend would get home. And I was like, I don't actually even know where to begin.
Mm-hmm.
And much like you were saying before about how you went on like a business retreat and then you found out like you actually didn't want to be in your marriage anymore, right?
Yep.
It's why I don't say what kind of a coach I am, is because like you might hire me for one thing, but then we end up doing something else because it's all the same. It's all the
Right.
same. And I hired an executive business coach because I thought I didn't like my job and I ended up unraveling my whole life.
Mm.
But the relationship ended first. I think the job was next. I started a business. No, I started a business. Yeah, I started a business and then left my job years later and then left New York. And so it was just that untangling. And I never did that gap year because I always was on the hamster wheel of like making money, making money. Parents split up when I was 21 years old. So there was like no safety net. It was like, go, Anna, go. And I knew that I wanted to travel around the world, but I also knew as the daughter of a pilot and we had traveled so extensively, I knew I didn't love traveling by myself.
Sure.
So when I thought about a trip around the world, I'd always had opportunities to. Like I was single in New York, like I could have done it at any time, but I wanted somebody to like laugh about it with.
Right.
And so when I left Manhattan, I said at my going away party, I was like, I'm going to move to Austin, Texas, and I'm going to meet a man of my dreams who makes me laugh and will travel with me. Didn't care about getting married, but I wanted like laughter and travel. And I'm going to get a backyard with twinkle lights and a dog.
Okay.
And
Done.
one later, or we had our first date, and I moved in with him a month after that. And then left Austin and moved to Houston. Like, I mean, the paint hadn't even dried on my apartment. And I was like,
Right.
okay, we're getting rid of this thing. Like, because it was that yes, because I knew myself so well
Hmm.
that when I heard that little voice at like 6 a.m. in the morning, one morning when I was journaling, I was in Miami on a business trip, and the little voice was like, to Houston. And I was like, I don't want to move to Houston.
Right.
And guess what? I ended my lease that day.
Wow.
Once I hear it, I take action. Right. And so a month after we got married, this is a long answer, but a month after we got married, Derek came home from work and he worked all the time. He would leave at 5 a.m. and come home at 7 p.m.
Mm.
and then work all night on Asia calls. He worked in oil and gas. And he came home and I was like, okay, so we're going to have to get a divorce. And he was like, why, honey? We're about to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. So I love this story. And he was like, why do you think we need to get a divorce? And I was like, well, because you asked me if I would marry you and have babies. And like the marriage thing is fine. Like I'm good with that. It's been a month. We're good. I would like to be with you forever. So like that's fine. If you want to do marriage, cool. Um, but the babies thing I'm not sure about. And I just can't do it 50%.
Right.
And I know my 100% is I want to go travel around the world with you. And I also know that like if we have a kid right now, I'll be a single parent and I don't want to do that. I don't want it bad enough to do this by myself. And you will always be gone. I don't care how much money there is. Don't care.
Right.
And I said, I also would assert, and we were both trained as life coaches, by the way. So I'll give
Oh,
that.
interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I said, I would also assert that you don't love your job. You just are wrapped up in the identity of you with this job and what it brings to the table financially and the safety that you think it brings. And I just don't think that's the case. And then his mentor and very good friend, who he had just told that he wanted to leave his career, became his boss.
Oh.
And it all started coming apart. And he
Hmm.
was actually, don't want this job. And it took about a year. And then everything was completely unexpected in the most magical way. The day we put our house on the market for us to like start this trip around the world, this company asked us to move to England and they were going to pay for everything.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, we moved to Romania and they paid for that. And then he got to the end of the year and then he got a bonus and then he got severed. So then he got more. It's like all these things happened. So this 1 year trip around the world was 3.
Mm, I love it.
And it all was just like we just kept taking the next right step.
Right.
But I stayed true to what it was a yes for me. And then at
Hmm.
the end of all that, I was like, okay, now a baby. And then I got pregnant. Like I found out 2 days after we moved to Austin, I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh. I love that.
Just all the traveling, all the things that we want to do. And then 4 months, and then um, when we had a 4-month-old, COVID hit, which was
Good
great.
times.
All I wanted
Right.
to do was just like be at home and snuggle and not do anything.
Right. Oh my gosh. That's so great. I love the way that you just said yes to the next
The
step.
next thing.
You
Yeah.
don't have to figure out the whole thing before you start.
Yeah.
It's just knowing yourself.
And I think that that's actually what the problem is, right? So I told you that I just started a
Yeah.
business with my mom. I say it's her business, right? But I've become very clear about like what she wants to do and what now I'm doing, right? Which is
Awesome.
sales and marketing. But when we were in the car together, she was like, "Yeah," and this is a great place to start for anybody that's listening. It's like, how would I even start? So I asked my mom, like, what would you charge for these brownies? Like all the different things, right? But first things first, like figure out what they cost you. Let's just kind of work backwards. I have an idea of like what I think people would spend. And once she started to like just write things down, which is why I love journaling, you know, things can feel a certain way in meditation. And I think that meditation for many, many, many people, myself included, for a long time, really until this past year, so 15 years of kind of struggling with it, it's really inaccessible, right? Because we feel like we have to clear our thoughts, which is not happening,
Right.
right? It's not happening.
Nope.
But if you tell me to like write a list down of things that I am supposed to do, like I can usually like start writing. Now, the trick with journaling is to like get to the depths, right? Like stop
Right.
tree list and your to-do list and all the things that you've like not hit the mark on, right? And start to like write. And that's why I recommend like 45 minutes, 3 pages, very Julia Cameron, morning pages style, because you
Right.
get fatigue of the stuff that's not true. And at that 35-minute mark, I've coached, thousands of people at this point, people something else starts to write. God, your intuition, the universe, whatever you want to call it, something that's like so sweet to your like
Mm.
4-year-old. It's like how you would talk to a child, right? Is what starts to show up.
Mm.
And for my mom, she's been a school teacher for 31 years. She works at a preschool. And I was like, Mom, what if we just sold these brownies to like at this St. Francis Christmas market? And that's like doable because everybody loves her. She's been there 31 years. People know her food. She literally stays there to cook for everybody.
Aw.
Right. She's a Greek chef. She's amazing. And I was like, let's just pick one thing and just like go deep on it. So that's what she did. We started on Black Friday. And I was like, let's play the game of like replacing your income for the year in 1 month. Let's just see.
Ooh, that's a fun
I just
game.
love games, right? And games and numbers are so fun. And she did. And she totally did.
Oh, I love that.
And so it's about, but see, the thing is, like, so I'm a clarity and confidence coach. So the clarity comes from journaling. But the confidence, what people don't realize is that like the confidence
Right.
doesn't come and then you take action. You take
That's
the
right.
action and then the confidence comes. So
Oh my
great.
gosh, that's my golden retriever moment. I was just on a call
Yeah.
before you and I got on this call, and I just wrote down confidence is on the other side of courage.
Yes. 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 So then now my mom's like, what am I going to wear on Shark Tank? I'm like, nothing. I was like, rags. You want to show them that you need their money, like, right? And then like we could do that or not, whatever. But it was so great because she's got like ideas for other products that people love. Like she's an amazing cook, right? And then she had the experience of like somebody at school asking her to make one of the things that she's famous for, that she's always said would be the next thing. And then she did it
Okay.
and she hated it.
Awesome.
I know. And that's what's so great. And she was like, I'm only making brownie truffles. I was like, great. And so that's how you know that clarity. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, okay. Like, but it takes you getting on the court.
Right.
It,
And you have to do it's not a failure. It's just feedback. And you don't know what you don't want until you try
yeah,
it.
exactly. So I had,
Yes,
like,
I'm,
you're a
yeah.
retreat master, right?
Mhm.
I did a retreat last year solely to find out if I liked it. I've been on like more than 50 retreats.
Brilliant.
I've been on a million, like I was a yoga, I mean, I've gone on retreats. And I was like, I just want to know if I like this or not. And I loved it and it was easy and it
Yeah.
filled quickly and like everything was great. And then I was so depleted afterwards. So I
Mm,
was like, okay, so if I do this again, I really need to make sure that like I have a little bit more space that I hold for myself, a little bit more like that I'm refilling. I need to go into it with more energy. I need to make sure to plan for a few days of like downtime afterwards. Like, so that's just how I
right.
learn. Right. And I did it in
Yeah.
my backyard. Like you were literally doing it in your backyard. You probably did that before you went to France.
Mhm.
Right. You
Yeah,
had
and
time.
I was a wedding planner, so
Oh,
I'm
you
just
were.
using my wedding
Yeah.
planning
Yeah.
skills to pull vendors and
Yeah. And
locations and all of these beautiful experiences so that my bride can float through her day or my client
yeah.
can float through her week from one fabulous experience to the other without dealing with the details.
Yeah.
And I love the details. The details are
Oh
yummy
my
to
God.
me. I like to be the girl
And
with the
now, oh,
clipboard.
this makes me so happy that we're getting to know each other. Oh,
Yes.
good, because I hate the details.
Oh my gosh, they're my
Oh, I'm
favorite.
so happy to know you, Wendy. I'm like, I've got a new detail person. I'll have to do
That's
this.
right. And I love the details because for me, it's like a glass is to water. It's a little bit
Uh,
of masculine
yeah,
energy to the feminine
sure. I could.
energy. So for me, having a timeline, having a schedule, knowing the plan for the
Mhm.
day allows me to make space for spontaneity. It allows
Yeah,
me to follow our bliss and be gracious because I know we actually don't have to be anywhere until 11:30. So, yes, we can walk down this way, we can go in
yeah,
this shop, we can do these things. We can also say, "Hey, how are you feeling about that 11:30 reservation? Would you like me to change it? Would you
yeah,
like me to cancel it? Would you like to move in the direction of it?" So we have a lot of freedom and fluidity and space
yeah,
to make aligned beautiful decisions and to follow our bliss. But I also know where we are sleeping and
yeah.
what, and so I like to be the holder of the information
Mhm.
and the holder of the permission to not use it.
Yeah. I love that you're saying that. And it's, I mean, it's exactly what I needed to hear because the thing that I've been noticing for myself as somebody that really, I was a competitive swimmer. So
Okay.
I have a lot of resistance around scheduling because I was so
Mm,
overscheduled as a really young child. Right. And I'm raising a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So I'm really conscious of like, how much is too much? Right. Like
yeah.
what's the dance here? And I have, and my sister too. We really, and I was, my dad's a Delta pilot and was a former Marine. So like we lived
Okay.
and died by the schedule and it didn't feel like space.
Mhm.
And so I'm learning, and this was such a great reminder what you just said. And I was journaling about it almost every day lately is that like the more I'm willing to put in the structure, that's actually where I can feel the space.
That's right.
Yeah. And so thank you for
Yes.
that
Yes.
because it
Oh,
like
my pleasure.
when I felt the most kind of unsettled was when we were traveling around the world and we could go anywhere we wanted. We could
Hmm.
do anything we wanted and we had plenty of money and no purpose. And I actually
Mhm.
didn't feel good in any,
Nope.
like that was it was too much. It was too
Yep.
much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that reminder, because like having that kind of boundary isn't, I don't love the word boundary, but like having that kind of structure to space and
Mhm.
then knowing when you need to like expand it. Right.
Well, right. I mean, and the glass is holding
Mm,
the water.
yeah.
It's not squeezing all the water out so
Yeah.
it can't do what it does, but it's also allowing the water not to make a big mess all over the counter.
Yeah.
Like it's really it's in service. That masculine piece of
Yeah.
structure is in service to the feminine piece of flow.
Yeah. That's very much what you're doing on a retreat. I just had a client talk to me yesterday. She's like, I feel like I should be able to do this on my own, but I can't stop working with you. And I was like, I know, because the only thing that I'm doing is holding space for you.
That's right.
And so it's just about that being that container, whether you're working with a coach or, be on a retreat. It's why like I've never really loved like the self-paced courses. And I
Right.
buy them. I don't anymore, but I used to. I used to buy the courses and I could never figure out why they didn't quite hit with me. It's because it's like I'm a yoga teacher that wants to go to a class. And it's not that, and I don't even want to do what they're saying to do. I actually want to do my own class. I just want you to hold space for me, to
That's
be
right.
here. Right.
Right.
And that's it. That's
Right.
such a gift.
That's my favorite thing about these retreats, but also about having the bed and breakfast.
Yeah.
I love holding space for women
Mm-hmm.
who are holding space for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
For,
such a
for
gift.
women learning too, I feel like, right? It's for really,
Right. You know, they
yeah.
made a decision to come.
Yeah.
They brought their book. They just want to gather eggs and cut flowers. And if I need them to pull weeds, they're happy to pull weeds. I don't like, no, you can sit on this
No.
beautiful chaise lounge though and have some tea while I pull
No, but
weeds.
this is what we forget. I just had somebody, a client was in a session yesterday and she was like, I just had my perfect day. And she described her day. And it was like a lot of like going for a walk, having lunch, having dinner, going for another walk. And I was like, I promise you, if you did that for 1 or 2 weeks, you'd be bored out of your mind, because we actually need to be a contribution.
I received that.
And so when you describe that to me, I'm like, no, you want to be in the weeds with me,
Yeah,
because you want to
you
look
do.
at that flower garden and remember the dirt in your hands and the contribution that you were to Wendy from this conversation that you had, or maybe you were just sitting there
Yeah.
in no conversation and just the silence.
Mhm.
And that's so uncomfortable for you and you did it.
Yeah.
Right. But we are always looking to belong. And where we
Mm.
belong is in contribution.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful and a total mic drop. And I know you have to go, so it's
It
perfect.
is perfect.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much. I love this conversation. Tell everyone where they can find and follow
Yeah.
you.
So my website is annakmorris.com. I've got ways that you can work with me, from private coaching to I have a 1 week course to help people know their yes. It's called Trust Yourself. Um,
Brilliant.
so I've got that. And then I've got an 8 week program that's literally like 16 years of what I've been doing in 8 weeks. So I'm like, I
Awesome.
want to collapse time for people. Like, it doesn't have to take everybody 16 years. It would be much faster. Um,
Oh,
and
it's
then
so great.
private coaching always, especially if you want to start a business or make a major life change, private coaching is great. And that's it. And it's all there.
Fantastic.
And thank you for having me. I love you.
Oh, I love you back. And we will link all of that in the show
Sounds
notes.
great.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations.
I'll see you next week.